In the sleek, metallic confines of her spacecraft, Zylara sat poised in her command chair, the glow of the control panel casting an ethereal light on her angular features. Her vibrant, teal skin shimmered under the artificial illumination, a stark contrast to the cold steel of her surroundings. The hum of the engines resonated through the cabin as she awaited the Council of Varron's transmission. The mission briefing was long overdue, and she could sense the urgency hanging in the air like a thick fog. With a sudden flicker, the holographic image of the council materialized before her. The faces of the esteemed members were grave, their expressions betraying the weight of the task they were about to assign her. The lead counselor, an elder with deep-set eyes and a voice like gravel, began, "Zylara, you have been chosen for a critical mission. A human scientist, Dr. Rafael Costa, is on the cusp of developing technology that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. We cannot allow this to happen." Zylara clenched her jaw, her heart racing. She had heard whispers of Dr. Costa's research, rumors that it could provide humanity with capabilities that would rival those of the Varron. "What is his current location?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "Earth," the counselor replied, his gaze piercing through the holographic projection. "You must eliminate him before he can complete his work. We cannot afford any missteps. Time is of the essence." She nodded, a sense of duty flooding her veins. Though the order was clear, a flicker of doubt stirred in her mind. Zylara had been an assassin for years, trained to follow orders without question, yet something about this mission felt different. As the transmission ended, she took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. She would not let her home planet down. As her spacecraft descended through the atmosphere, the vibrant blues and greens of Earth unfolded before her. Zylara activated her cloaking device, transforming her into a shadow amongst the humans below. She landed discreetly on the outskirts of a bustling city, her keen senses alert to the world around her. The air was thick with a variety of scents: freshly cut grass, urban pollution, and the tantalizing aroma of street food. With a swift movement, she activated her holographic disguise, allowing her to blend seamlessly into the crowd. As she navigated the streets, her mind was focused on one thing: finding Dr. Rafael Costa. She soon arrived at a towering building, its glass facade reflecting the sunlight, and slipped inside. Zylara found herself in a sprawling laboratory filled with advanced technology and bustling scientists. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on him, Dr. Costa. He stood at a workstation, his brow furrowed in concentration, surrounded by colleagues who admired him with palpable respect. Zylara observed from a distance, her heart inexplicably racing as she took in his presence. He exuded a charm and determination that was magnetic, drawing her in despite her mission. "Rafael, have you considered the implications of your research?" one of his colleagues asked, her voice laced with concern. "What if it falls into the wrong hands?" Rafael turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "I understand your concerns, but we have to push the boundaries of what's possible. Imagine what we could achieve if we harnessed this technology for good." His passion was evident, and Zylara felt a strange stirring within her. She leaned against the wall, hidden from view, her mind racing. For the first time, she hesitated. The man she had been sent to kill was not just a target. He was a person, filled with ideas and dreams. Watching him interact with his colleagues, Zylara felt a flicker of empathy, a foreign sensation for an assassin. Suddenly, a commotion broke her reverie. One of his colleagues, visibly distressed, was struggling to hold back tears. Rafael noticed immediately, moving to comfort her. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You can talk to me." His kindness pierced through the walls Zylara had built around her heart. She found herself captivated, torn between her mission and an inexplicable connection to this man. The way he cared for those around him made her question everything she had been taught about humanity. As Zylara stood there, grappling with her thoughts. She realized that her mission was no longer just about duty. It was about understanding the man behind the scientist, and for the first time, she considered delaying the assassination. Perhaps the lines between duty and desire were not as clear as she had believed. Zylara floated in the shadows of Rafael's world, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. She had tracked him for days, observing the scientist in his natural habitat, a cluttered laboratory filled with beeping machines and the pungent scent of chemicals. Each day, she learned more about his life outside the sterile confines of academia. The way he smiled at his colleagues, the care with which he explained complex theories, and the passion that ignited his eyes when he spoke about humanity's potential. It was intoxicating, and it gnawed at the very core of her mission. On this particular evening, Zylara watched as Rafael strolled through a nearby park, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his lab coat. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the landscape. "I can't believe we're really doing this," she heard him say to a friend beside him. "It's a chance to change everything. If we can harness this energy source, we can provide sustainable power to billions." His enthusiasm was palpable, and Zylara found herself captivated by the conviction in his voice. She had been trained to see humans as mere targets, but Rafael was different. He was a beacon of hope, a representation of the goodness she had never truly understood. With each passing moment, her resolve weakened, and the mission that had once seemed so clear began to blur. "Rafa, you're always so optimistic," his friend replied with a chuckle. "You know how the world works. There will always be those who want to exploit your research." Rafael sighed, his brow furrowing. "I know, but I have to believe there's a better way. If we can just get this project off the ground. Maybe we can prove that collaboration is more beneficial than competition." Zylara's heart ached at his words. The Council of Varron had sent her to eliminate this idealistic man, yet here he was, dreaming of a united future for his people. The conflict within her deepened, and she found herself grappling with emotions she had never anticipated. Just as she was about to retreat into the shadows, a sudden commotion caught her attention. A group of men in dark suits approached, their expressions menacing. Zylara's instincts kicked in. Danger was afoot. She watched as the men surrounded Rafael and his friend, their body language suggesting hostility. "Dr. Costa, you need to come with us," one of the men said, his voice low and threatening. Zylara's heart raced, her training as an assassin momentarily forgotten. "Who are you? What do you want?" Rafael demanded, stepping protectively in front of his companion. The men exchanged glances, and Zylara felt a surge of adrenaline. She couldn't let anything happen to him. Without thinking, she activated her cloaking device and leaped into action, silently moving behind the nearest assailant. "Hey, get away from him!" she shouted, her voice ringing with authority. The men turned in surprise, and Zylara struck, expertly disabling one before spinning to face the others. The element of surprise was on her side. "What the hell?" Rafael gasped as he took in the scene unfolding before him. His eyes widened, and for a brief moment, Zylara saw a flicker of recognition. "Stay back," she commanded, her voice firm as she took down another attacker. The chaos lasted only moments before the remaining foes realized they were outmatched. They retreated, vanishing into the night. Breathing heavily, Zylara turned to Rafael, her heart racing not just from the fight, but from the revelation of her own actions. She had just saved him, an act that threatened her mission and her very identity. "Who are you?" Rafael asked, his voice a mixture of awe and confusion. "Why did you help me?" Zylara hesitated, the weight of her true identity pressing down on her. She had crossed the line, and now she stood before Rafael as both savior and potential enemy. But before she could formulate a response, the words spilled out. "I'm not here to harm you. I'm Zylara, and I was sent to eliminate you." The silence that followed was deafening. Rafael's expression shifted from shock to curiosity, and instead of anger, there was an undeniable intrigue in his gaze. "You were sent to kill me, but you just saved my life." "I know how it sounds," Zylara replied, her voice softer now, the urgency of the moment waning. "But I hesitated. There's something about you, something I didn't expect." "Tell me more," Rafael urged, stepping closer, his eyes searching hers for answers. As Zylara stood there, a paradox of an assassin with an unexpected bond, she realized that the mission she had been trained for was no longer the only path before her. The lines between her duty and her growing feelings for Rafael blurred, leaving her at a crossroads that could alter the fate of both their worlds. Zylara leaned against the cold metallic wall of Rafael's lab, her heart racing as she absorbed the vibrant energy of his world. The sterile, fluorescent lights contrasted sharply with the soft, ambient glow of her home planet, Varron. But there was something captivating about the chaos and creativity surrounding her. Rafael, standing at the center of it all, was like a sun around which everything revolved. His hands moved deftly over his research, his brow furrowed in concentration. The way he worked, with such passion and purpose, stirred something deep within her. "Do you really believe your research can change the world?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rafael looked up, surprise flickering across his features before he smiled. "Absolutely. Every discovery has the potential to make life better, whether it's through technology or understanding the universe. We're all connected, Zylara. Every step forward in knowledge is a step towards a brighter future for everyone. Don't you think?" Zylara's mind raced as she processed his words. The Council of Varron had painted humans as reckless and self-serving, but here was Rafael, embodying a vision of hope and unity. "But what if it leads to destruction? What if your inventions are used for harm?" Rafael's expression turned serious. "That's a risk we take with every advancement. It's up to us to guide that technology, to ensure it's used for good, just like your people must guide their own advancements. Isn't that the same for you?" His question hung in the air, and Zylara felt the weight of her mission pressing down upon her. She had been trained to eliminate threats, to protect her planet at all costs. But as she watched Rafael, she began to question everything she had been taught. In the following days, their conversations deepened. They shared stories about their worlds, their dreams, and their fears. Zylara learned about human emotions, love, loss, and hope, while Rafael expressed a profound curiosity about her alien culture, asking about her upbringing, traditions, and the societal values of Varron. "I've read about the Varronese," Rafael said one evening as they shared a meal. "Your people are known for their advanced technology and deep connection to the stars. But what about your emotions? Do you feel as we do?" Zylara hesitated, considering her response. "We are taught to control our emotions, to prioritize logic over feelings. It is a sign of strength, but I find myself feeling differently since I met you." "Differently?" Rafael prodded gently, his eyes sparkling with interest. "A sense of belonging, I suppose." "I've never felt this way before," she admitted, her voice trembling with vulnerability. Rafael reached across the table, his fingers brushing against hers. "You're not alone, Zylara. You've become important to me, more than I can express. But I know you have a duty. What does that mean for us?" Zylara's thoughts spiraled as she received a message from the council late one night. The urgent tone of their communication sent a chill down her spine. "Complete the mission immediately." The words echoed in her mind, drowning out the warmth of her connection with Rafael. She paced the darkened lab, her heart pounding. Duty bound her to eliminate him, yet desire urged her to protect him. Torn between two worlds, she felt her resolve weakening. The following day, as Rafael worked on a particularly complex equation, Zylara stood by the window, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape. The vibrant colors and sounds of Earth filled her senses, grounding her in the moment. "Zylara," Rafael called, breaking her reverie. "What's on your mind?" She turned to face him, her heart racing. "I received a message from my council," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "They want me to eliminate you." Now, shock swept over Rafael's face, and he stood abruptly, tension radiating from him. "You don't have to do this," he urged, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "We can find another way. We can work together." Tears pricked the corners of Zylara's eyes. "I don't know if I can betray my people, but I can't bear the thought of losing you. There must be a way to protect you without causing harm to my home." Rafael stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "Then let's find that way together. I believe in a future where we can unite our worlds, not destroy one another. You have the power to change everything." Zylara's heart swelled with hope, but the weight of her mission loomed heavily over her. She took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of her decision pressing upon her. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to defy the council. They will not accept betrayal." "Then we fight together," Rafael encouraged, his voice firm yet gentle. "We can create a new path, one that honors both our worlds. You're not alone in this, Zylara." In that moment, Zylara realized that her heart had already made its choice, even if her mind struggled to accept it. The lines between duty and desire blurred, and she could no longer ignore the truth that had emerged from the shadows of her heart. Come on," he whispered, his fingers working deftly as he pulled out a small toolkit from his pocket. As he concentrated, a sudden noise startled him, a guard approaching. Rafael's heart dropped as he quickly hid behind a nearby crate, holding his breath. The guard passed with a grunt, oblivious to the intruder mere feet away. With renewed urgency, Rafael returned to the lock, his heart pounding in rhythm with the ticking clock of danger. After what felt like an eternity, he heard a satisfying click. The door creaked open, and he slipped inside, his breath catching in his throat at the sight before him. Zylara was bound to a chair, her expression fierce despite her situation. Angry bruises marred her skin, and yet her eyes blazed with a fire that ignited something deep within Rafael. "Zylara!" he exclaimed, rushing to her side. "Rafael!" she gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You shouldn't be here." "I couldn't leave you," he replied, working quickly to free her. "I won't let them hurt you." As he released her wrists, Zylara shot him a grateful smile, but the moment was quickly overshadowed by the reality of their precarious situation. "We need to move. They'll be back any second." "Right. Let's go," Rafael said, helping her to her feet. Together, they turned to leave, but the sound of footsteps echoed ominously down the corridor. "Run," Zylara urged, leading the way as they dashed through the maze of hallways. They narrowly avoided guards, their hearts racing as they maneuvered through the facility, adrenaline fueling their escape. "Can you fly a ship?" Rafael asked breathlessly, glancing back to see if they were being followed. "I can pilot anything," she replied, a fierce determination in her voice. "Let's find an exit." They made their way to the hangar, where ships of various sizes were docked. Rafael's eyes widened as they spotted a sleek vessel with a familiar insignia. "That one!" he pointed, and they sprinted towards it. As they climbed aboard, Zylara quickly took her place at the controls. Rafael secured the hatch behind them, just as blaring alarms echoed through the hangar. "They know we're here," he shouted, adrenaline surging through him. "Hold on," Zylara replied, her fingers dancing over the controls as she initiated the launch sequence. The ship trembled beneath them, and with a powerful thrust, they shot out of the hangar, narrowly avoiding a barrage of laser fire. "We did it!" Rafael exclaimed, a mix of relief and exhilaration flooding through him as they soared into the sky. But their victory was short-lived. Warning lights flashed on the control panel as they detected incoming ships. "They're not giving up easily," Zylara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "We need to find a way to outmaneuver them." "Can you shake them?" Rafael asked, gripping the console, his instinct for problem-solving kicking in. "Just hold on," Zylara replied, her eyes narrowing in focus. She banked the ship sharply, evading enemy fire as they entered the planet's atmosphere. The ship rattled violently, and Rafael felt a rush of fear mingled with excitement. As they broke through the clouds, the vastness of space loomed ahead, and Rafael could finally breathe. But their respite was cut short as Zylara winced, clutching her side. "I'm fine," she insisted, but Rafael could see the pain etched on her face. "Zylara, you're hurt," he exclaimed, his concern overwhelming him. "It's just a scratch," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "We need to keep moving." "Not until you're safe," Rafael countered, his resolve hardening. "We need to patch you up first." They managed to find a moment of calm as they navigated to a hidden asteroid belt. Rafael scoured the ship for a first aid kit, his heart heavy with worry as he returned to Zylara's side. "Just let me help you," he said softly, his fingers brushing against her skin as he bandaged her wound. "I won't let anything happen to you." Zylara looked at him, her eyes shimmering with gratitude and something deeper. "You're risking everything for me, Rafael." "Why?" "Because I care about you," he replied, his voice steady, revealing the truth that had taken root in his heart. "And I believe in what we can do together." In that moment, as they locked eyes, they both understood the weight of their choices. Outside the ship, the stars shimmered like distant dreams, and they knew they were on the cusp of something monumental. Their journey was far from over, but together they felt ready to face whatever came next. Zylara stood at the edge of the grand chamber, her heart pounding in her chest as she faced the Council of Varron. The towering figures of the council members loomed over her, their expressions a mix of disdain and skepticism. Beside her, Rafael's presence was a steadying force, his hand brushing against hers, offering silent support. The stakes had never been higher. "Why should we entertain the notion of peace with the humans?" the council's leader, Kaldor, sneered, his voice echoing through the vast hall. "Your mission was clear. Eliminate the threat, not negotiate with it." Zylara took a deep breath, summoning all her courage, because war will only lead to destruction on both sides. Dr. Costa's research, while initially seen as a threat, could instead be the key to understanding each other, to bridging the gap between our worlds. Rafael stepped forward, his eyes locking onto Kaldor's. "Our worlds are not so different. We both seek progress, knowledge, and a better future for our people. Together, we can achieve that without bloodshed." Kaldor's expression hardened. "You've betrayed your people, Zylara. Your connection with this human has clouded your judgment. You are a traitor, and I will not allow such weakness to permeate the council." Zylara's heart sank as she realized the gravity of their situation. The council had made their decision, and there was little she could do to sway them. Just as she was about to resign herself to the inevitable, the air shimmered, and holographic transmission flickered to life in the center of the chamber. The image of a man materialized, a figure she recognized immediately. It was Rafael's estranged father, a high-ranking member of the rival organization. His expression was grave, and the tension in the room shifted palpably as he began to speak. "Council of Varron, you must listen. I am here to reveal the truth," he declared, his voice resonating with authority. "The rival organization you fear has been manipulating both our worlds, inciting chaos to serve their own agenda. They do not want peace. They want war." Gasps echoed throughout the chamber, and Zylara exchanged a bewildered glance with Rafael. This was not the revelation they had expected. Rafael's father continued, his voice steady. "I have been gathering evidence against them for years. They orchestrated the conflict between our people, pitting us against each other to weaken both sides. Zylara, your mission was a part of their scheme. They knew you would hesitate, that your feelings for Rafael would complicate matters." Zylara felt a surge of hope. "We can expose them," she said, her voice rising with determination. Together, we can unite our worlds against this common enemy. The council members shifted uneasily, their expressions now a mix of uncertainty and intrigue. Kaldor's gaze bore into Zylara, searching for any sign of deception. "And why should we trust you, Rafael?" he challenged. "You've been absent from our affairs for too long." Rafael stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "Because I have seen the truth firsthand. I have fought alongside Zylara, and I know she is not a traitor. She is a warrior for peace. Let us work together to dismantle the organization that seeks to destroy us." As the tension in the room thickened, Zylara and Rafael's eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. They were no longer just an assassin and a scientist. They were allies, bound by a shared vision of a future where their worlds could coexist. Kaldor hesitated, glancing at the other council members who were beginning to murmur among themselves, weighing the implications of this new information. "If what you say is true, we must convene," Kaldor finally conceded, though his voice was laced with skepticism. "But know this, if you are lying, the consequences will be severe." The transmission flickered and disappeared, leaving the chamber in a heavy silence. Zylara felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, the fate of both their worlds hanging in the balance. Rafael turned to her, his expression fierce and determined. "We have to act fast. If we can gather our evidence, we can turn the council in our favor." Before she could respond, he closed the distance between them and pulled her into an embrace, the warmth of his body igniting a fire within her. "No matter what happens, I'll stand by you," he promised, his voice a low murmur. Zylara's heart raced as she looked up into his eyes, filled with fierce resolve. In that moment, the world around them faded away, and all that mattered was their connection, their shared hope for a future untainted by war. As if sensing the gravity of their bond, Rafael leaned in, capturing her lips with his in a passionate kiss that spoke of love, defiance, and a new beginning. The kiss sealed their commitment to each other and to the fight ahead, a promise that together they would challenge the fate laid out before them and forge a path toward peace.